Welcome to What the World Needs Now with hosts Tom Whisinnand and Josh Monroe. We hope that you're able to leave feeling encouraged and ready for another day of changing lives in the field of education as we speak with inspirational teachers from across the nation and world about what keeps their spark lit.
In this episode, we talk with Reagan Duncan, a kindergarten teacher from Vista, California, about how she uses music to engage her students and share her passion. Without any further ado, Reagan Duncan.
Reagan, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. For our listeners that don't know who you are, what's your elevator pitch? You got a lot going on, so tell us a little bit about who are you, where are you from, and what's your role in education?
All right. Well, my name is Reagan Duncan, and I was born in California, and I'm still here, which a lot of people can't say anymore because it's become so expensive to live here. I teach at Maryland Elementary School in Vista, which is North County, San Diego. I live in San Diego in North Park, so I have quite a commute to school. It's about an hour on the way home, sometimes an hour and a half. But I love the students I work with. I've been teaching this is my 18th year teaching, and I've taught kindergarten, I've taught first grade, I've taught kindergarten and first grade at the same time, so combo, and I've also done the 1-2 combo as well, which has also allowed me to what is it called? Rotate with my kids. I've been able to loop with them a few times, which was probably one of my very favorite things that I've gotten to do as an educator, looping with kids and having them again. And I mean, they already know what you expect and you know where they were at the end of the year. That's pretty cool. As you can see, I'm all about the ukuleles. I recently got into cahoots with Guitars in the Classroom. It's a nonprofit. It's based actually here in San Diego, but they provide service to educators throughout the nation. Free ukulele lessons and guitar lessons to get ukuleles and guitars into the classrooms, getting teachers comfortable with utilizing those instruments in their classrooms, not necessarily to teach their children how to play, but to use it in the classroom so that you're using music as part of the way that you teach. Significantly and completely changed the way that I educate my students, for sure. But elevator pitch is tough because I would say that here's me in the package, right? I would say I'm all about social emotional learning through music. I want to engage our students and engage my own students and all students in their learning and have them become active participants in their learning. I want to not just engage them, but I want to teach them to express themselves. So engaging them, teaching them how to express themselves appropriately. And in no time, like today, there's just no time like today to really delve deeply into social emotional learning. Our students have such gaps in their social emotional learning, in the ability to hold conversations with each other, in their ability to do conflict resolution, just in their ability to just talk with each other and navigate social settings. You'd be surprised at how awkward it is to have a room full of students who really, they don't understand how to express their feelings or express what they want to say in an appropriate way. And music and teaching SEL through music has really helped with that. And then the eventual goal is to empower our kids, right? So once you've got them engaged and you've got them and caught them with that music, and then you've taught them how to express themselves, then it's about empowering them. Like, what are they going to do with that, right? So an example I would give is my students are empowered to go over and pull an ukulele off the wall. This is my classroom wall in my own classroom right now, and grab an ukulele and calm themselves down by just sitting and playing, or to write a song and to play that song, and we record the songs and share them with each other, share them with families as well, to demonstrate their knowledge, because you don't have to write an essay to let your teacher know that you understand the material. So once kids understand a concept, or if they're trying to do, a persuasive essay or opinion was what we just worked on, that they can grab an ukulele, write a song, and show me that they know how to express their opinion and how to persuade someone to agree with them. And how cool is that? Giving students an opportunity to not just utilize pen and paper, but utilize song as another avenue of expression, and not just an avenue of expression, but actually an avenue to show what they know. I mean, you can use it as an assessment tool. Not every kid is we're all made differently, right? We all have different learning modalities, and this really appeals to those students who are kinesthetic, visual, sometimes visual learners, auditory. But this is so much fun for kids. They can't wait to go and grab that ukulele and play that ukulele, whether it's during an actual lesson or it's to let them show me what they know.
Reagan, you got so much there. What if
Too much, sorry.
No, I love it. First of all, were you musical before you got into the Guitars in the Classroom program? Like, did you have a musical background?
Well, I think I came out of the womb singing. That's probably not true, but maybe screaming on key. I can pitch match. I think my dad was a really good singer, is still a very good singer. And my dad sang in like barbershop quartet. And then I did musicals through high school, and then even in community theater after. I enjoy music. It's always been a part of my life. It resonates with me, and I really wish that my teachers had tapped into that. That would have been, I know that would have helped me in ways. Well, we can't go backwards in time, but I want to provide that opportunity to my students, to give them that opportunity to learn and just to have some music appreciation, even just music exposure. It shows, I mean, it's shown in studies that if children are exposed to the arts, to music and to arts, that it does actually equate to better problem solving skills, people skills, as well as higher math and English language arts test scores. So for those who really want, we need the hard data, it's true. So there are direct correlations there. So I know that what I'm doing in the road that I'm going down is beneficial in many areas. I hope that I can continue my musical journey, but I've always enjoyed music. And when I had this chance meeting with Jessica Barron, the founder of Guitars in the Classroom, it was actually right after we shut down. Remember what was it? I would call it D-Day or Z-Day maybe, because that was the day that we were now going to be on Zoom forever.
Z-Day, yeah.
Z-Day.
Right.
So yes. Z-Day, March 13th, like that infamous day when we got the call that said, we're not coming back on Monday and we don't know when we'll come back. I remember I was just walking. That's what we did, once we knew COVID was a thing, I was walking around the neighborhood and I literally bumped into this woman. I didn't know who she was. She didn't know who I was. We struck up a little conversation and she said, "Oh, you're a teacher?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's kind of scary right now and I don't know when we're going to go back." And she said, "Hey, you wouldn't happen to want to learn how to play ukulele?" And I said, "What? Yeah, sure." It was so random. And an hour later, I was picking up 2 ukuleles from her porch so that myself and my husband, who's also a teacher, could learn how to play ukulele. And that completely transformed the way that I educate now. And 2 years later, here we are, and I'm a completely different teacher. I mean, not completely, I'm still me, but music has become an integral part of the way that I educate now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Isn't that what we look for in teachers, though, is that opportunity to learn and grow and figure out how we can best help our students?
Oh, absolutely. It's insane. The things that happen that you at the time think are so detrimental and that you are so frustrated and angry and sad when COVID hit and we didn't get to see our kids again. That was really tough. In March, you just said bye and you didn't see them again. That was hard. And this chance meeting offered me an opportunity to try something different and shift my perspective. And I'm trying to help other educators find that as well.
So there's a ton there. Like, you can use music as an assessment. It opens doors for children who may not like to write. They may not like to spend time on Book Creator or making iMovie trailers or whatever, but they'll sit down and they'll play music. What would you do? What would you say to a teacher who says, "Yeah, good for her, she does it. I'm not musical. I'm not sure this is for me." Like, how would you encourage them to at least open the door and explore Guitars in the Classroom or incorporating music into their classroom?
That's a great question. As far as, yes, not every educator feels the this deep, passionate drive to not only include music but actually, produce it. And I can case in point you with another educator at my school site, who she's super invested in this now. I have two educators who are both using their ukuleles in their classroom and singing with their kids, and they're not singing on key, and it's not perfect, but that's the thing, is we don't need to have perfection. Our students don't need to see perfection. So I might have good pitch and I might be able to, strum well, but it's okay not to. So the Guitars in the Classroom program that Jess has created gives teachers the tools that they need to include music in the classroom in really basic ways. I mean, I have my ukulele, so is it okay if I grab it? So really basic ways where you can just teach a steady beat. You can have all the kids practice steady beat. Students who can keep a steady beat are far more likely to be able to read. So there's a big, they're readers more quickly, right? So it's one of those, it's even like an assessment tool. If I have students who are keeping that steady beat, I know those students are probably not going to need as much support in decoding. But another thing that you can do is you can use it as a tool to calm the classroom down. I can just gently strum and walk around my classroom. I don't have to sing. And I can even do rhymes. So I can say, I know a word and it rhymes with cat. What's the word that rhymes with cat? I don't have to be able to sing. I don't have to be able to strum well. I can just use a steady down strum to change it up for your students. And Guitars in the Classroom does teach different strategies that you can use to embed music into your normal curriculum, just what you normally do. So you don't have to be a great singer. You don't have to be musically inclined, but just bringing that ukulele into the classroom or guitar into the classroom and allowing students access to it turns some kids' little lights on. Some children walk into the classroom and there's no interest in learning. You open a book and we all have different preferences, right? But you bring out an ukulele and start singing, all of a sudden that kid is understanding rhyming. They go, oh, and music is just a rhyme. It's just a poem set to music, right? And teaching that and utilizing that with your curriculum that you already have. So that's kind of the cool thing about Guitars in the Classroom too, is they're going to show you different ways to embed music into your curriculum and embed it throughout your day, as well as using it for social emotional learning, that's my forte. That's what I'm working on with Guitars in the Classroom. So you can even take a course just to learn, how do I infuse music and how do I infuse music and social emotional learning into my classroom to support my students' needs, because the needs are so high. It's incredible. I don't think we've been in a time like this before. Spanish influenza, but I don't think any of those educators are alive to talk about it right now.
Well, I agree. I think that it's a very, very unique time in education right now. And I don't know how you feel in California, but I feel like we're still feeling the pressure of reading, math, and writing. And if it's not those three things, then it's not important. And what you're talking about kind of brings up some of the things that are bubbling in education, right? Like, we've got this data that supports music in classrooms, that supports kids being involved in music. So how, in your opinion, like, how do we get people outside of the classroom, admin, people beyond us, how do we get them to understand what you're saying? Because I've seen a change in my classroom with the kids that are in orchestra and band. I'm not saying that they're always the best math or reading students, but the growth that they make is unbelievable. And I think sometimes as teachers, it's hard to fight those battles, right? That we have principals that say, well, that kid's not on grade level. I'm not sure that they should be doing band. I'm not sure that they should be doing orchestra. Mm-hmm. But what you're saying is spot on, right? Like, what they are learning with music is lifelong. How do we balance that? Like, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, how do we get other people on your side?
Yeah, well, I mean, So some people need research, right? They need research-based data. The good news is there is research-based data. So using that data as your tool, you can say, hey, I know that research shows blank, 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 that including the arts and music and art, fine art, visual art, performing art, that these all only strengthen our students' abilities and capabilities. That's a place to start for people who need the data. But what actually makes kids want to work, right? What actually inspires a kid to do anything? You have to grab them, you have to engage them. So even talking about music or art, any type of art, as a way to engage our students in learning. Because I might be singing a song, I'll walk around the classroom singing a rhyming song, or walk around the classroom singing T-H-E, T-H-E, spells the word the, and the kids are singing it, and guess what? Every kid can write the word the. Why? Because I sang it. And they sang it and they practiced it. And it's the same thing for any high frequency word or shape song, that infusing those things into education. And I'm not talking about it always being separate. In some cases, yes, band's going to be a separate class, but infusing those things in makes the kids want to come to school. Right? I can tell you last year, I can use the example of attendance, that last year I was a Zoom teacher. I was in a box all year just like this, and engaging first grade children to keep looking at the box. I was singing and dancing. I still wear tutus every Tuesday, and a tie, tutus and tie Tuesdays, and singing and dancing and grooving. And that was the way that I could engage my students. They were engaged in their learning. I also sent an ukulele, because I fundraised a lot. I was able to send an ukulele home with every single student. And I had ukulele lesson first thing in the morning, the very first thing I did. So the kids were coming. So my attendance was really good, where other educators might have had, a lot of latecomers. Not to say I didn't have any kids that came late, but I had really good attendance last year. And I think a big part of it was because I had that music in there. And educators were going out of their way to try to find things to engage their students. And for me, music was it. I mean, it grabbed them, and doing directed draws based on, books that we were reading. So infusing the arts into your education program or just into your curriculum creates engagement. And if your students are not engaged, they are not learning. You can wah them all day, but it doesn't mean they're learning anything. I know they're learning because they're singing it back to me, and I hear them humming it as I'm walking in line, or I'm walking around the classroom. They're singing silly songs that I've made up. And it doesn't have to, I'm not saying it has to be music. It can be other forms of art as well. But how do we know that our children are learning? They have to be engaged. How are we engaging our children? That's the conversation to be had. Like, we need to engage our kids. Here are some ideas on how to engage them. And then you've got the data to back up the fact that those engagement strategies will benefit even test scores. So I think that's kind of how we can come at it. You have to know your audience, your administrator or your school board, or your school district. So you've got to come at them with what's going to work. But engagement, if a child is not engaged, you can't tell me that a kid who's sitting like this and flopped over with their head down on their table is actively participating or engaged in your lesson.
Reagan, it's clear that you have a ton of passion and you love your job. You love what you do. How'd you get started in education? Like, what made you think to yourself, man, I want to be a teacher and I want to teach littles?
All right, I'll give you the true story rather than the one that I've rewritten. Well, let me tell you about a story about a girl named Reagan, whose mom was an educator and whose daughter, Reagan, said, "There's no way I'm ever gonna be a teacher, Mom." And my mom looked at me and she said, "You're a teacher. I don't know what else to tell you." And I said, "No way." And I went to college, and I went and was a sociology major, and I was sure I was going to be a child therapist, and I wanted to use dramatic play to help children work through their problems and do family therapy. And then I started working at this really cool toy store called World Discoveries. And the owner used to teach a class for kids. It was called Mommy and Me, or, Parent and Me. for 2 to 4-year-olds, and she was trying to phase out, and I was, this lively, happy, always singing person in the room. And she said, hey, and she tapped me and asked me if I'd like to start teaching it. And I taught songs, and I had to like develop my own lessons, and we'd sing songs together, and I do craft activities with the kids. And a little girl grabbed my shirt and pulled on my shirt and looked up at me and said, teacher, teacher. And I went, no. I went, oh my gosh, I'm a teacher. And then the second immediate thought was, my mom was right.
My mom was right.
They're always right.
Oh my gosh. I called her to her chagrin. I called her and immediately said, yeah, so I think I'm going to switch our senior year. I think I'm going to switch my major. And she's like, well, you can't switch it. It's too late. I said, well, I'm going to start taking classes for education because, Mom, I think I'm a teacher. And she goes, oh, how about that? She never say I told you so. She just went, no, okay. Like, I knew you'd figure it out eventually. Here I am 18 years later, and I am a full-fledged educator who cannot even imagine. I can't imagine doing anything different, but you were right, Mom. Right. You were right. Doesn't every mother want to hear that? You were right.
I feel like we need to somehow hashtag that, right? Like, Mom, you were
right.
Oh, I think that's awesome because moms always know, right? There's just some weird intuition that they always have about their kids.
My guess is that she figured it out when I was babysitting, and I would write down the activities that I was going to do with the kids.
Planning. Already
planning. Like, okay, first we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna bring paints, and we're gonna paint, and then after that, we'll blow up these balloons, and we'll play. We're gonna play balloon toss over the couch and pretend it's like volleyball, and then it'll be close to time to go to bed. I mean, I was writing this down.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, you're a teacher.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Like, that's a teacher's heart right there. When you grow up writing lesson plans and acting it out.
I didn't think that was what was happening, but she knew. You're right. You're right, Mom.
You've come a long way since then, right?
I'm a full-fledged teacher now, and I want to be. It's my choice.
And that's what the world needs, is teachers that choose to be here because that's what we love.
Oh yeah.
And unfortunately, right now in America, there's a lot going on in education.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
We're in some trouble a couple of years from now if we continue down the road that we're on.
Mm-hmm.
How do we change that? Like, how do we get people on board with, hey, this is an awesome job? Because there's a lot of hats that we have to wear, a lot of plates that we have to juggle.
Absolutely.
How do we change it?
This is tricky because I was thinking about, what is right now, what is currently the biggest, most difficult obstacle that education in general, like educators everywhere, but education in general is facing? And I have to say, it's the burnout and the lack of mental health support. And so how do we balance all of the things, like you said? There's a lot of problems, and there's a lot of things that are leading to this burnout factor where educators are just leaving the profession and we can't get them back in fast enough. There's a true teacher shortage. I think that's kind of what you were referring to, is there's this teacher shortage right now that we can't even fill positions when they disappear. There's a teacher goes out because of whatever reason, and we can't even get that position filled. We can't get enough substitutes. We've got no subs. There's an administrator in every room that there isn't a sub in. There's no one in the office to deal with anything else that's happening because we're just spread so thin. What we've kept doing is adding to teachers' plates. So we keep adding, and I want to say educators because I know not everyone's a teacher, but we have educators, adding to the plate without removing anything. And that's why we found ourselves where we are. everything's become more exhausting, and it's resulted in educators leaving the profession. It's resulted in the teacher shortage, especially in special education, where we need the finest educators that we can even, that we can get. That's where we need the finest educators and the most passionate and the most supportive and caring and compassionate and empathetic teachers, and in lower elementary too, I would say. But where do we go from here? One huge, in my opinion, solution, I don't want to say it'll solve everything, but we need to be paying attention to the mental health of our educators. Our students and our teachers have gone through trauma, and they've continued to go through trauma over the past 2 years. It's traumatic being an educator in a box all year. That's trauma. Our students seeing what's happening in the background at their homes and not being able to do anything about it. I mean, I would end the day in tears. I'd hold it together, smiling and singing all day. And I'd say at the end of the lesson, I'd say, okay, goodbye, my little world changers, go out and change the world one kind act at a time. And I'd say, bye, and click, and I would sob. And I'd just be like, ooh, because I saw something happen in the background that made me know that X, Y, or Z, and not necessarily child service reportable, but you see these things happening in the background and know that those kids need to be in school. They need to be not at home. They need to be at school, and the families wanted them, to be at school too. And it just wasn't possible. So we've had all this trauma, and we have not done a good job of providing mental health services to support that trauma that continued to happen and will continue to happen. So providing mental health support to our educators and students actually on campus would be huge. If there was a way for, every district, and I wish it would be, I wish it could be sponsored by the federal government, but that there were people available, that they had counselors and therapists that came to campus, once a week, that teachers could make an appointment to go talk to run through the things that they're having a hard time with. And the same for our students, especially in middle school and high school, because what we're seeing leading to that burnout also are these insane, I don't want to say insane, and use the correct terminology, but these incendiary behaviors. I mean, these behaviors that are purposefully trying to, rattle educators and bother other kids, they have gone up exponentially. And the interruptions and disruptions to just the daily classroom routines have been chronic. I mean, they're not, and it's not something that we've been able to lessen very much. And it's not as if these kids are, special education children, because that's what sometimes it's like, well, they just need special ed services. No, these are children who are crying out for help, and we're not helping them. There are some things that we need to be doing that we're not doing. And part of that is providing services for these kids to talk and to figure out how to navigate these big emotions they're having. And music is one of those tools. Social emotional learning programs are one of those tools, but it's beyond that. So I think that a big piece to support not just burnout, but keep educators in our education system is really providing mental health services, and not just talking the talk. And if I get one more email that says, don't forget to take care of yourself, I don't know what, but I get it. They're like, don't forget about yourself, take care of you. It's like, okay, you keep telling me that, but then meanwhile, you pile program on top of program on top of program, and then say, and now you need to do this and this, while removing nothing. So removing things off of educators' plates, getting rid of antiquated programs that don't make sense anymore, shifting things off of the plate so that we can get back to doing what we need to do and what we know how to do best. I mean, trusting your educators to do those things, but providing us with the tools that we need so that we can do them. And part of that is mental health services and counseling services, having a counselor on every campus. I mean, that should just be a staple. It should be a common practice, and it's not. I don't think that that's going to solve everything. It won't, but I think it's a step in the right direction.
Reagan, how do you stay inspired? Like, how do you day in, day out go in and show love to these kids who really need it?
Well, an easy answer is simply, it's a choice you make every day. Every day when I wake up in the morning, this sounds funny, but it's 100% true. In the morning, I wake up every day and say, today's going to be a great day. And sometimes it's not, but I make a choice in the morning to start with that attitude. So part of it's attitude, right? And then choosing to be positive when there are so many negative factors around is tough, but it's a choice. So first and foremost, I keep my inspiration and keep myself going by making a choice every day to say that it's going to be a good day. Now, is it always? No, it's not. But as you can see, one of the biggest inspirations for me that keep me motivated is being able to have music in my classroom every day and being able to give that to my students, and continuing to do that and continuing to grow programs like an after school ukulele program that I have at my school. It's called the You Can Do It Ukulele Club.
I love it. I love it.
So doing things like that make me want to keep teaching. Last year when I was on Zoom, I literally created an after school program so that I could teach children in person. I did it for free, hoping that in the future I could get some support with it, which this year we do. We're actually getting paid for our time now teaching after school. Hopefully that we can continue that funding, but that is what keeps me motivated is a passion. I kind of think everybody needs to do that right now because we're all having different. So we were all experiencing a storm, right? The same storm, but we were in different boats.
Yeah.
Some people were in like a little dinghy and some people were on a yacht and some people were on a cruise line. But we were all in this big storm called COVID-19 and all of us were in different kinds of boats. So right now, how do you take back and take back that joy for education? And I would say you need to look at what you are passionate about. For me, it's music, and that reinvigorated me. In allowing students to do that too, asking them what they're passionate about so that you can meld those things into your curriculum and create things like Genius Hour or having passion projects. Those are common terms if people aren't familiar with them. Giving kids time to learn about what they want to learn about and then present it to you. It's really cool. But allowing educators to do that. I mean, what are you passionate about? Are you passionate about singing? Are you passionate about gardening or cooking? And then bring that into your classroom because that's going to reinvigorate you. Is it going to change the world? Maybe. Who's to say it's not? I say that to my kids. I'm like, you never know what could change the world. You could change the world.
That's
you
right.
Come up with this idea and it changes the way everyone does things.
Yeah.
You don't know. And maybe right now, maybe I'm changing the world. Who knows?
It would be pretty cool if for a moment we could say like, hey, Tom, what are you really passionate about? Go work on it for one day a week. Because that's what Genius Hour is, right? You give 20% of your time to your kids that they can learn about what they want. That's something that I do in my classroom. And I've watched kids change tires. I've watched kids knit hats for hospitals. I've watched so many amazing things that they're not necessarily standards that we're supposed to hit, but they are ways that our kids are going to change the world. And that is what I love about it.
Yeah, but they are. But you can meet standards.
You're right. You're 100% right.
There's speaking and listening. There's presenting. Like presenting is a Common Core standard. Students need to be able to present using multimedia. So they could be present however they choose to present. They could present in song, however they choose to present that. So whatever they're doing, you're still meeting standards. Don't sell yourself short. You're still hitting standards. Passion projects are a way to still meet the standards, but keep students engaged, which is what we want, right? We want them to want to come to school and be engaged. You're doing the work.
Yep.
Love it.
100% agree. And I love that you brought that up because I think that passion projects, Genius Hour, whatever you want to call it, 20% time, that is something that every kid needs to experience in their schooling and probably every year.
We'll take it further and apply that to yourself. you know, take it further and demonstrate it. You know, when you introduce it, you might introduce it and introduce your passion. You say, here's my passion. I'm going to share with you because I want you to learn about it because I'm so excited about this. And you present it, like you infuse your passion, and then keep infusing your passion all year. And the kids are going to see that your passion and the thing you're excited about can be a learning experience, and then they can do the same thing. So educators can take a note from that same book, like look at it yourself and say, what am I passionate about? Cooking, I can still meet standards and do cooking. Kids can write down the recipe, right? Nope. So that's and it can be researched as well. Gardening, that's meeting standards for science, right? Music, changing the tire, you're still meeting standards too. So this belief that, not this belief, this thought that we just need to stick to science and math and reading, beep, bop, boop. It doesn't have to happen. You can be meeting standards by doing all of these awesome things that kids actually enjoy, and they're going to get something out of it. They're going to be learning from each other and learning on their own. And we can do that too. We can model that. Here's my passion right here. My kids know it. They can tell you all the parts of the ukulele. They can play a bunch of songs. They can tell you our origin story. I mean, they learned something and it becomes intrinsic. So that's something you're already doing, but take it a step further and do your passion project with your kids.
Reagan, Tom and I are doing our passion project with you.
Here.
This is something, when COVID hit for us, we sat and listened to how many teachers were burnt out, like you were talking about. And we said, what can we do to help? And Tom brought us this amazing passion project.
Well, there you go. And it's working. And why couldn't it work? And why shouldn't it work in the classroom? Show your passion. And if kids are able to demonstrate their passion through their, and they're also learning, it's not as if it's not learning, it's still learning, but you've engaged them. And guess what? I bet you that attendance is going to do well with that too. Your attendance is going to be good. And the attendance is important because that's ADA, and ADA is important because the district gets money that way. So you can tie all these little things in a neat little bow and be like, here you go. You're welcome, district. I solved your problems.
Reagan, I love this time and I've learned so much, and your energy is just absolutely infectious. That's the word I want. It's infectious. At the end of every episode, we always ask, what does the world need now? Because you're a music person in the 60s. You know this song. I don't know if you can play it on the ukulele or not.
The world needs now is sweet love.
That's,
teach our children about kindness. That's
yeah. So what do we need now?
Well, I mean, literally, I was going to sing that, and then you just introduced it. No, I mean, that's, the world needs kindness. The world needs love, but more accurately, we've got to work towards building students that are kind, compassionate, empathetic, and when those qualities are so incredibly important. So they can go out into the world and actually make change and create change and be agents of change. So you can't have the world change with apathetic human beings, and we can't keep pumping out apathetic human beings out of our schooling system, which is what the current model is doing. So we've got to invest more in teaching social emotional learning. We've got to invest more in the arts. We've got to invest more in creating an educational system where passion projects and Genius Hour are the gold standard, not outside the box ideas, And in a world like that, we'll be generating thinkers. We'll be generating students that are kind, empathetic, compassionate thinkers who are going to go out and change the world. I mean, that's right now, that's my overarching statement to the world. The world needs love. We need to create kind, compassionate, and empathetic children who can have the power to go out and change the world.
And I love that you said, like, we can't have apathy be part of that, right? We have to have students that are creative, critical thinkers about, hey, here's what I want from the world, and here's how I'm going to do it. And it's not by marking A, B, or C on a test. It is by really thinking about what I want, and here's how I'm going to change it. Reagan, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. This has been a pleasure, and I might go pick up a ukulele later. Try to.
Go on guitarsintheclassroom.org and check it out. By the way, the classes are totally completely free. So educators anywhere,
Awesome.
I mean, technically anywhere in the world, I guess, but anywhere in the United States, I've taught classes to educators who are in Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida. So it's something anyone can do, and it's totally free. And it changed my world. It rocked my world.
I love it. Reagan, thanks so much for being generous with your time. And we look forward to talking to you again.
Yay! Go out and change the world, my little world changers. You're already doing it. One kind act at a time.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. We're so thankful and appreciative that you took your time to listen to our guest, Reagan Duncan. Hopefully you're ready for another week of changing lives, and hopefully what the world needs now is helping you to sustain your inspiration as we journey through this school year. If it is, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps us to get inspirational educators' stories out.
We hope that as you head out, you remember the biggest factor that plays into student success is you. Your love, your passion, your empathy, your dedication. That's exactly what the world needs now. Thanks for everything you do. Have a good one.